Welcome to the Journey to Your podcast. I'm Jess, an intuitive medium, Reiki practitioner, life coach, and energy artist. For years, I struggled with burnout, anxiety, and unresolved trauma until a life-changing loss pushed me to break free from old patterns and trust my intuition. Now, I help women like you do the same. This podcast is your guide to uncovering your most authentic self, connecting with your intuition, and transforming your life from the inside out. Wherever you are on your healing journey, you're in the right place. Now let's get started. Today, we're diving into a deeply personal and transformative journey, what it means to come out of the spiritual closet. If you've ever felt the pull of a non-religious spiritual awakening, but held back because of fear, judgment, or conditioning, you're not alone. For me, this journey began in the wake of profound loss. When my mom passed, followed by both of my grandmothers, I found myself questioning everything I had once believed. Raised in a Christian family, I was taught to fear the unknown, to avoid mediums and spirit connection. Yet, when those same women who raised me started visiting me in spirit, I couldn't ignore it. What began as curiosity turned into a powerful calling, a journey back home to my true, authentic self. In this episode, I'll share how I faced the fear of judgment, embraced my intuitive gifts, and discovered the peace and comfort I longed for in my grief. If you're navigating a similar path, I want you to know you are not alone, and your journey matters. So grab a cozy drink, take a deep breath, and join me as we explore what it means to step out of the spiritual closet and into the light of your authentic self. Let's get started. I am so happy and grateful that you are here listening to this episode. My guess is that either you are a faithful listener of the Intuitive Teacher podcast, or the title of this episode really struck a chord with you, or it resonated in some way. So I'm just going to go ahead and get started and talk a little bit about my journey. So I think it all really started here whenever I was growing up. So I came from a conservative faith. It was a thriving church, and it was about 5 minutes from my childhood home. I went to church mostly with my grandmother and my aunt and uncle because my mom worked. She worked late nights over the weekend because she was waitressing. And then in the mornings on Sunday, we just went to church, and that was that. This was in the 1980s and 1990s whenever I was going through this church, and it's very possible that things have completely changed as we are, here in 2025. But I'm going to share my experience as I had it growing up. So I just wanted to say that in case someone listening is like, oh yeah, like this sounds a lot like me, but I'm pretty happy where I'm at, and that's okay. The denomination began about 200 years ago in Pennsylvania, and it had some blended theological roots in Anabaptism, Pietism, Wesleyanism, and evangelicalism. As I remember it, the church was always packed on Sunday mornings, and we had this beautiful, large fellowship hall with every potluck. We had Sunday school classrooms down there. They were engaged, every level full. And we also had evening services on Sundays. They were well attended too. My family sat in the second row, and as kids, we were expected to be very quiet or experience the wrath of our grandmother's glare or scolding words. And for the most part, I really did enjoy going to church, learning about the Bible and its teachings, the stories that would come to life, and making those connections through what was and what was playing out in my life through our Sunday school teachers and from the sermons from our pastor. I also really enjoyed connecting with and making some friends who were either in my own school or in my neighborhood. They may have gone to a neighboring school, but I really had some core friendships that began in the church. Looking back now, I can see how many limiting beliefs were planted by the church, both in service to my higher good, as well as ones that didn't really align. My faith shaped me, nonetheless, and gave me some guideposts that really helped me navigate the troubles I experienced as a child and then a teenager growing up. I really grew up in the church, and it was there where I was taught to fear God's almighty hand if I sinned. I learned what sinning actually was. But I also learned that as that was true, I had to embrace God's unconditional love. It was where I learned that we are all God's children, even as I witnessed adults cast judgment on those who were different from them. The teachings were clear. Jesus Christ was the only Lord and Savior, and anyone who followed another faith was destined for hell unless they were saved. The church shaped my understanding of life's rules. Sex was meant for only marriage, and questioning those rules felt like inviting the devil into your life. When I began to feel the deep dissatisfaction in my first marriage, I was told it was the devil's influence, not a sign of deeper truths within me. And when it came to spirit communication, the warnings were even more dire. Reaching out to spirit wasn't just frowned upon, it was considered dangerous, like a potential gateway to hell. Anyone who dared to explore that path risked being labeled a weirdo, an outcast, or even crazy. Those really followed me through my adult years and into my healing journey after my mom passed away. And as I evolved into, who I really am. There were definitely moments when I felt a deep connection to my faith inside the church, especially after becoming a mom. I valued the lessons I learned and the sense of community it could bring. But honestly, I often felt like the black sheep in my family when it came to church. As I got older, that feeling didn't really go away, no matter how much my relationship with the church changed. Deep down, I just didn't feel like I fit into the box of organized religion. Then the pandemic hit, and like so many other routines, and believe me when I say I thrive on structure and routines, going to church was put on pause. By the time my mom passed away in the fall of 2021, I still hadn't gone back. Sunday mornings became slower and so much more peaceful. It was really a time for me to breathe and reflect. Without the structure of church every week, I started asking myself what I really believed and what felt true to me. All right, so now you know a little bit about my upbringing in the church, and I'm going to pivot a little bit. I've talked about the impact of my mom's passing on previous episodes of the Intuitive Teacher podcast, and um, they've started pretty early on, and I feel like that story has just woven its way into several episodes. So if you want all of the details, or if you're just tuning in for the first time, I don't want to leave you wondering how this all fits together, but there are some episodes that talk a little bit about that journey. So, my mom passed away shortly after I decided to begin exploring a career change. And I really had a strong sense to leave traditional art education. I wanted something that really lit me up and gave me purpose as teaching art once did. I looked into a lot of different options. One that really caught my interest was art therapy, but I had just completed a second master's degree and really was not ready for another long haul as a student. My path actually led me to life coaching as a master NLP practitioner. And as a quick side, believe it or not, when you ask the universe to help you with something, it starts lining up what you need at the right time you need it. For some of the time leading up to my mom's passing, I had been in therapy, trying to make sense and peace with my estranged relationship with my mom. And then she died, and I ran out of time. Her death happened within days of my life coaching program starting. And this might sound really weird, but it truly was the invitation I needed to finally give myself permission to heal from that relationship. For a year, as I learned how to coach and hold space for others' healing journeys, my coaching mentor did that for me, allowing me to really excavate my inner stories and rewrite new empowering ones. I learned along the way that my coaching mentor was also an intuitive medium, which really piqued my curiosity while I was still deep in grief. She started offering some intuitive development classes, and they then led me to becoming a Reiki healer, which gave me more opportunities to heal, but started opening up my intuitive clairsenses. So, as I was going through these intuitive development classes and becoming a Reiki healer, I noticed, and I have to say too, like this was all alongside my mom had passed, my paternal grandmother had passed, and they started visiting me in spirit. And I really think because I had gone through those intuitive development classes and my intuition was opening up and my grief was being processed in a way that allowed me to invite spirit connection in and be open to receiving it. I had some pretty crazy experiences for someone who had not had very many supernatural experiences. One example that I want to share, and I have mentioned this before on a previous podcast episode when Jackie and I had talked about spirit connections. So on the anniversary of my mom's passing, the year after she had passed, I was downstairs. We had this little living space down here, and my office is just kind of right next door. And my son wanted to sleep out or like camp out in that living space. And my daughter was waiting down there with me. She wanted me to help her fall asleep or like tuck her into bed. So, as my son was just calming down and falling asleep, I was on the couch laying, waiting and thinking, just my mind was wherever. And all of a sudden, I felt the presence of an energy kind of like hovering above me. And like as soon as I felt that, it entered my body and I just felt these all over body tingles. And it was a neutral feeling, but also of love. It was nothing that I was afraid of. It was so, I don't know, bizarre to me at first because I had never had anything like that happen to me before. The only time I had anything like that happen was when I truly believe I tapped into my higher self. And at that point, I had just lost my mom. I had been about a month or so, maybe a month and a half into my coaching program, thinking about opening up my own business one day, and I was laying on my daughter's floor with her because she liked to get her sleeping bag out and lay on the floor. And I just started daydreaming. And at that point, I also experienced full body tingles, like the most the most intense feeling of unconditional love that I think I have ever felt. I knew that I was on the floor, but I also felt very strongly that I was not in my body. And instead, I could see and experience warmth. I saw golden and white light all around me. It was as if I was being just held in this space. But whenever, and in both cases, when my mom came to visit me in spirit on that anniversary, and this time when I was just daydreaming and truly believing I'm meeting my higher self, I I got in my head and I started asking questions like, oh, what is this? Who is someone here with me? Who is this spirit? What is going on here? And as soon as that happened, everything just fell away. So there are a number of other examples and stories I have of the connection of spirit that really truly began as a result, I guess I should say, of some of the important people passing in my life. I had started feeling other people's energy and auric fields. I started seeing auras and colors around people, and not just like in my imagination, like it was like I saw them in real life, and I continue to see this. I see colors, and whenever this was first happening to me and I was being introduced to seeing colors around people, seeing people's auras, I really had to stop and blink, like, am I actually seeing this? But yeah, there are so many stories that I could share, but I know that you are not here to hear about my stories. So I want to dive in a little bit deeper into my journey of this, coming out of the spiritual closet. But I know that there's some background that still needs to be shared. All right. So I've shared that I definitely had a lot of fear and doubt that was rooted in my religious conditioning and upbringing. I, whenever my mom passed away, I started becoming very curious about seeing a medium. Like I had shared earlier, my coaching mentor was an intuitive medium that piqued my curiosity. I ended up, my very first experience with a medium was I got onto a Facebook Live call where my coaching mentor had another medium on who, they were kind of like teaming up and just doing this live, and people could join and ask questions, and the medium would share this other medium who was the one who read me. My sister was on it, my one sister-in-law was on it, so we were all there, and it happened to be my turn. Like I put a question in and this medium picked up on what was going on. And that was really, really like such a cool experience for me. And it definitely had some lessons involved there for me as well. But whenever I shared with certain family members that I thought about actually booking a reading and an appointment with a medium, that was really frowned upon. It came with a lot of fearful judgment, safety issues. Safety issues, meaning I was straight up told by someone in my family that I would just be opening up the gates of hell, like inviting in harmful energies, inviting in the devil, evil, all the things. Now, that person had some experiences that influenced what they were sharing then with me. But then also, I should say that person was a member of the church that I grew up in. So we both had that foundation of, some fearful beliefs stemming from the church. So I had this, yeah, I guess I'm going to say I had this inner battle between curiosity and fear. I had all of these changes that were happening to me. I was healing from my relationship with my mom. I was really opening up so many parts of myself, so many relationships, patterns, beliefs I had, masks I wore, and getting into the why that they were existing in my life. But then also, while that was going on, I was learning how to come back home to myself, how to step into my authenticity, how to say, you know what? I don't want to be a people pleaser anymore. And I know why I grew up that way. I know why I have that mask that I wear. I don't want that anymore. I can stand up for myself. I don't have to do for others and sacrifice my time and energy and, putting my needs, my core needs first. I don't have to do that anymore. Yes, I can strike a balance between saying, you know what? I need to take care of me before I take care of what you need from me. Or I can also say, you know what? Yeah, actually, what you need from me lights me up. Or no, I can't do that because that's not for me. So, and that's just one example. Alongside that healing, because my mom in spirit and my grandmother in spirit were visiting me, I had like I had all of these supernatural experiences happening and I didn't know who to talk to about it. And that really led me down a path of fear and isolation, keeping myself closed in and closed off from people who really meant the world from me. So it wasn't until I met my Reiki master and I went through my level 1 attunement, I went through my level 2, and then decided to do a guided mentorship with them. So every week we met and worked on something on my spiritual journey to help me grow and evolve, but also like release some stuff. And we did that through Reiki. You know, it was working with them that I learned how to channel. And we did so many avenues of channeling and tapping into my intuition. But it was really with them that I learned that I could ask for something that I wanted, and God, source, the universe would bring it to me. And they had shared, and I'm saying they because it's they, them. That's how they prefer to be called. So whenever they were going through their own spiritual awakening, they called in a new tribe, calling in new people who were at that same vibration, at that same level, could, like-minded, could really be that new circle. Because when you go through this, people fall away. Things that don't serve you where you are, it's like energetically, it just falls. It's released. And it's all, I really feel like there's a lot of behind the scenes that God, source, and the universe, they take care of that for you. And sometimes it can also feel like the rug is just being pulled right from underneath your feet, and it's scary too. But I decided I'm going to ask for that. I want people to come into my life who I can share this experience with because I was so afraid. I had a fear of abandonment with my family members, even with my husband, who had grown up in the Lutheran church, and he had his experiences and his beliefs. And I really felt like if I opened up this stuff to him, he'd probably think I am a freaking crazy person, and that would be a game changer, and everything that we had built in our marriage would fall apart. I am going to say that that has not happened. Like, the complete opposite has happened that whole entire time. He has done nothing but show me unconditional love, even if he doesn't quite believe or understand what is what changes are happening within me. So I had a few mentors that really helped me along the way. I had my coaching mentor who I've shared, she's an intuitive medium. So I had that connection. I had my Reiki master and I did my guided mentorship with them. I also started working with Stephanie Regal, who I should say my coaching mentor is Verna Lisa. She's been on a couple of previous episodes. Stephanie Regal, she's also been on one of our earlier episodes as well. She started working with me, or I started working with her, and her guidance through my soul guides was such a game changer. It was so helpful to be able to do this journey with spiritual guidance. And it wasn't like working with all of these spiritual mentors was it was very authentic and it was very real, and I got tangible practices and steps that I could implement. But there was also a lot of energy healing going on. There was a lot of building of awareness of what is still holding me back, or where can I step through these fears, and how do I do that, and what support do I need. It was so helpful to surround myself with people who understood me. They had been on that path before, and they knew the steps to move forward and how to guide me along the way. So, with all of that being said, that was so, it was like a clearing of the path, working with these people and really valuing the inner work that I was doing on my own. But that's not to say that I was not experiencing fears because I had a deeply rooted belief that if I am myself, I will be abandoned. If I am myself, I am not good enough. So there was a deep fear of abandonment that if I truly came out of the spiritual closet and lived my life speaking freely, acting with what I felt like was aligned, behaviors and actions, people would think that I was a freak, not only in my family life, my personal life, my friendships, except for that tribe that I had called in, those people I had called in, but then also in my professional life, because I have been an educator for over 2 decades. People know me in the community as being a leader in art education. I've written for an online art ed magazine and university. Like I have been this person who is a leader in my community. So many kids and families know me, and I had been really afraid if I put myself out there, I'm going to be doing this alone. Am I ready for this? So I definitely experienced some tests along the way. Sometimes those tests came in the form of conversations. I remember being at a an education conference where I was sitting around the table with the team of educators my district had sent to this conference, and we were getting ready for the keynote speaker. Well, I had decided to bring a necklace that had one of the Reiki symbols on. One of the administrators who was attending saw it and said something to me about it. And we had such a beautiful conversation because I'm telling you, at first, I was like, holy shit, an admin is talking to me about Reiki healing. This is your time, Jess. You have to either hide and not, be yourself, or you have to really be honest. And I chose to be honest. And I did thank her then to just let her know I really appreciated being able to have a conversation like this because it had been very difficult for me to have conversations with people in my professional world, the education world, where I'm sharing this part of myself. And it's been wonderful. Like I have felt that, once that happened, more tests came along and it was like the universe, like God was saying, okay, you were okay with this one. Let's see what else you're okay with. Like, are you going to cower and hide, or are you truly ready? Are you going to put yourself out there? And I swear, like up until the point where I was like, okay, I'm out. I'm out. Like here I am. This is who I am meant to be. This is how I'm going to help the world. This is part of my purpose in service to others. I experienced so many tests along the way of, you know, talking about what I can do energetically, spiritually, connecting with spirit, my beliefs, like feeling energy, experiencing, all of that. Like lots of stuff came up. And I also noticed that when I talk to people, and I would say, like, for the most part, when I have had conversations with people about what I do, they are either curious and want to know more, or they totally embrace it. Like, oh, I don't know how many times I've heard people say, I've always been told that I'm really intuitive or I have these gifts, but I don't know what to do with them. Or, yeah, I've actually had connections with spirit. Like, my passed over, grandmother keeps, checking in and I feel coldness in the room or, things move or music turns on or like I hear their voices. Like people have shared these things with me and it has been an amazing journey to have that. Now, I know that at some point I'm going to really be facing some pushback of skeptics, and that's okay. I know now that I have to just, stand in my truth. This is who I am. And if I want to live in my purpose, I have to be me. I have to be who I am. So, for any of you who are really, battling this feeling of, I'm going through this spiritual awakening, or these things are opening up for me in my intuition. I feel like I have these, new I, these ideas, these thoughts, maybe epiphanies, or I'm stepping into my authentic self. And because I'm setting boundaries with people, I'm really pissing people off. Or, there's so much that comes up whenever you are on this journey of healing, of stepping into who you really are, of aligning yourself with connection to others, with spirit, to nature, to what lights you up. And you're going to face your biggest fears. If it happens, if your journey happens to be anything like mine, my biggest fears just poured out of me. And it got to the point where if I was going to, I feel like it's like I have unlocked new layers along the way. Like God wasn't, I feel like growing up in the church, I always learned this phrase, or I always heard this phrase that, God won't give you situations that you can't handle, that you're not strong enough to handle. Like he'll only give you situations that you're strong enough to handle, something like that. And I feel like it was kind of like that. Like I would get to this level of, okay, here's where I am. Now there's a threshold or there's a benchmark. I need to like break through this. And then when I would, and it was usually a fear, the benchmark was this fear that was holding me back. Whenever I got to that, then I unlocked a layer or a level, and then something else came my way. And I feel now that I am in the most aligned place that I have ever been. And I know this because I am very aware of when people who maybe are like a little unsure, or maybe people who are stirring up old patterns for me or fears for me. Whenever that happens, I am aware of the triggers and how I feel in that moment. Are they stirring something up that causes me to think, oh, um, I need to work on that, or oh shit, I'm going to cower, or oh, that doesn't actually bother me at all anymore, which is wonderful. So, whenever you are also on this journey, I do want to say too that it's so important for you to have guidance, for you to have support. I started like devouring everything I could about spirituality and otherworldly things, supernatural things, grief, because there's definitely a loss of your former self and loss of things that fall away, people who fall away, relationships. And I really do believe that you need people surrounding you who can support you in that journey as you go back to yourself, because doing it alone can be lonely and isolating. And it's nice to have people alongside you who you can go to and say, this is really coming up for me. This is stirring stuff in my heart. I don't know what to do about this. you know, I I just need to talk to somebody, and they can either hold space for you, or maybe you ask them, what would you suggest? I need some advice. They might be able to help you. Another thing that I wanted to share, as you are on this journey, it's so important to integrate. So as you go through this, I know I said, you are going to be releasing a lot, like that past version of yourself, that unhealed version of yourself. It's so important for you to integrate all of the parts of you. You don't want to exile a part and say, no, you are not welcome here. It's really when all of the parts of yourself come back together. And to integrate, you have to show yourself love and compassion. So I want you to think about, what lights you up, or what are some ways that you can restore your spirit, your soul? How can you find ways to rest? Maybe it's going for a walk in nature. Maybe you take on a practice of journaling. Maybe you are into EFT tapping. Maybe you go to someone for energy healing. Maybe you decide, you know what, I'm taking one day and I am just going to watch whatever TV shows I absolutely love. Or maybe you start listening to the music you did whenever you were in high school and you do that on your commute, or you're listening to something that really lights you up. Think about those things that light you up, but also things that might bring you rest, where you can nurture yourself, nurture your mind, nurture your body. This is something that you have to do to love on yourself. Integration is really loving you. As you integrate your new journey, you are truly bringing balance to your spiritual identity with, societal or familial expectations. And, sometimes that can be very difficult. And I want to say for other people, because they might not know how to hold space for this new you because they're so used to your older self, your unhealed self, the one who's stuck in patterns, who is not thriving, but just like trying to survive. So as you are emerging as this new part of yourself, this new version of yourself, really becoming the person you are meant to be, know that you are truly stepping into your authenticity. And there's such a huge transformation that happens to you. And whenever you start living aligned as your authentic self, that person you are meant to be in this world, things flow. You notice what lights you up. You notice people around you who bring you joy. It's like you are no longer in resistance. Like stepping into your authentic self and out of that spiritual closet doesn't come without hardships. We are still living this human life, and there are all kinds of ups and downs. But as you embrace that new part of you, this new version of you, you are so much more aware. You have a toolkit of things that will help you be the best person that you can be. I invite you to embrace your journey. If you are on this path, this journey of a spiritual awakening, and it has nothing to do with religion, and you are looking for someone to reach out to, if you are trying to figure out or navigate how to face your fears, how to trust your intuition, be true to yourself, I invite you to reach out. You are welcome to email me at any time. You can connect with me on social media, but also tap into the people you have around you. You might be surprised at who is already in your life, who will show up in support of you. Thank you so much for listening to this episode and giving me some space to talk to you about stepping out of the spiritual closet. For me, it has been quite a journey, and I'm honored to share this with you. Thank you for being here and for taking the time to listen to the Journey to Here podcast. If something in today's episode sparked something in you, be sure to share it with a friend and subscribe so we can keep walking this healing journey together. To help more listeners find the podcast, please consider writing a review and rating wherever you are listening. Always remember, your intuition is your greatest gift. Trust it, trust yourself, and know you are capable of stepping into the life you deserve. I'll be with you every step of the way. Oh, and don't forget, Content and services provided by the Journey to Hear LLC, such as the Journey to Hear podcast, are intended for informational, educational, and entertainment purposes. Techniques, strategies, and services offered are not a substitute for the advice, treatment, or diagnosis of a licensed mental health or medical professional. As stipulated by law, we cannot and do not guarantee results or offer legal advice.